Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tatiana Show. It's been in the news lately. Big fights with China. There's communism there. What's going to happen? There's the Wuhan virus. There's all this stuff. Oh, wait, I shouldn't say that. People get all pissed. I'm going to start it again. People don't like that Wuhan virus thing. I don't see why it's so bad. But anyway, let's try again. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tatiana Show. Today, we're going to find out about China and what it means to come up in a communist country. I have a friend of mine from the Liberty movement, Tang Williams. She'll be joining us in just a minute. You could see her on the corner. But before I get started with her and let her share her story as a liberty activist and as somebody who actually escaped from communist China, has a lot of lessons for maybe people that are saying, oh, communism or socialism is the way. But before we dive right into that, I have to say hello to my wonderful co-host, Josh Shigala of Voltoro. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
Hi, Tatiana. It's wonderful to be back. I'm really excited about this guest because a lot of people constantly talk about, especially students. They're like, oh, no, communism, socialism, capitalism's so terrible, free market. And I'm just always dumbfounded. So it's great to have someone that's grown up in that system to come and tell us what it's all about.
Absolutely. Okay, well then, without further ado, I guess let's bring on Lily. Lily, thank you so much for joining us on the Tatiana Show today.
Well, thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Excellent. So for people who are unfamiliar with your work, you're a public speaker, you do quite a lot of different things in the liberty movement. But if you could just walk us through some of your experiences and a little bit of background, the floor is yours.
Well, just like you said, I guess it's because our educational system in this country, government-run schools and government-run Common Core, lots of our children do not really understand how evil the communism is and what is the connection between communism and socialism. I have been traveling to schools, middle school, high school, colleges to teach our youth about those horrors of communism. Then they say, well, how about socialism? I tell them, Lenin said that the goal of socialism is communism, one by violence, one by vote. It doesn't matter. We all got led to slaughterhouse near the end. So students sometimes got scared. The best comment I got from a middle school student, she said, after Miss Lily Williams' talk, Grandma, I will never be a socialist. That was the best comment I got ever from students.
Yes. But, there's a lot of kind of misconceptions around that. And can you give us a little bit of an understanding of Chinese history? Because how did this kind of come to play? Maybe some people are not so familiar.
Well, Chinese civilization is about, at least 3,000 years. And we had a traditional culture. We had a traditional Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism. It's all in harmony with nature and non-violent. But all that changed by a foreign evil ideology called communism. Unfortunately, I was born right before Mao's Cultural Revolution. So I went through entire 10 years, social political chaos, poverty, indoctrination, and just, violence. I have, suffered a lot, but I did not know I was suffering because I was brainwashed by Mao. He was like a god. We say, long live Chiang Mao every day, hold his little red books. And we say 10 years, 10,000 years, long live Chiang Mao, another 10,000 years. So we never challenged as a child that, that's impossible. He's human. No, we never questioned that. He become like our God during the Cultural Revolution. To give you an idea about communism, the young people don't know. Everything's owned by state. There's no private company. There's no private property. We live in an 8-family shared courtyard with one bathroom. That's the only thing it's free, okay? 8 families share one bathroom in the courtyard, one water faucet. And but then you have to pay schools, you have to pay for childcare, and you have to pay for your food, and it was rationed according to how many heads in your family. We have family of 5, Guess how much eggs and all the meat we got per month for family 5 under month? 2.8 pounds for a month. If you had your birthday, say happy birthday, here's your 1 boiled egg. That was a special treat for that day. I don't remember any toys I had. My parents are at the bottom of the food chain. They were working class, illiterate, and poor. You would think of communism is all about workers rule, workers on the top of ruling class, right? It's all about class struggles. No, that's utopian. We never ruled anything. We got ruled by maybe top 1% of the ruling class and high-level Communist Party officials. My mom, dad worked 6 days a week for the state factories and could not keep us fed. And then we leave that crummy location, it's like there's a crime at night. You hear people yelling. We're so afraid that people would just come to rob us. We had no, weapons except the chopsticks and kitchen knives. If somebody just kick our door open. It was very scary to grow up in that kind of, society. You feel like you have no rule of law protection, you have no privacy, and your door was barely locked. We had no lock for our doors. We had a little iron hook. Anybody can kick that open. And I just remember I was so worried. What if somebody come in here, just take my parents away and hurt my, 2 younger brothers? And that's kind of the condition we have. And people don't realize how awful that was. It sounds good, it's free, but would you want to live there? It's very primitive,
What happened with the increase in free market capitalism there? Because China has sort of evolved. They're very conservative in terms of what they're exposing people to. So they have a lot of propaganda, but then they also have an opportunity to utilize a more free market system than sometimes in the US, in that it's easier to get licenses and stuff like that. Is that an accurate perception?
Well, long story short, Mao's 10 years Cultural Revolution, okay? First of all, his policy starved 20 to 40 million people out of a mass famine from 1959 to 1961. Our kids did not know that. They were just shocked when I told them. And then when Mao died in 1976, I was only 12 years old. We still had the food rationing coupons. The economy was in complete collapse. That's why when Deng Xiaoping took over, he started to adopt some limited market economy. His slogan is, let's get some people rich first, okay? And getting rich is glorious. Under Mao, we demonize capitalists, landowners, and also demonize capitalism. Everybody who they want to, public shaming, belong sent to labor camp, they were called capitalists, landowners, property owners. But Deng Xiaoping kind of changed that to say, hey, getting rich is glorious. That's the new slogan. He called that Chinese market economy with socialist characteristics. So we're still socialist country, but we still want the people to get rich first. That's why you see economy got better, foreign investment coming. We had foreign students and professors on our college campuses. And in the 1980s, it was like best time of my life. I went to college in 1981. It was like a Chinese renaissance. We had the Chinese rock and roll, and we had open debate, talk about what kind of country we want to live in. Can we do political reforms on top of economical reforms? You can actually criticize, party policies and discuss things. That was the best time of my life until, of course, 1989. The peaceful demonstrators in Tiananmen Square, lots of students, about maybe 10,000 of them were crashed, were killed by tanks and soldiers. And after that, you have not seen scale like that in China ever again. Lots of people who were born after that are used to that in China. They don't know about that. You cannot Google that. Except the last year, Hong Kong people start take straight like Chinese students did in mainland, 1989. But we lost Hong Kong like just last July 1st. National security law now can put you and me in jail if we go to Hong Kong and talk like this. We're anti-communism. You can get into trouble. Doesn't matter which country passport you have. So I liked free market economy reform, even just the 40%, 50% market economy was great. was better than communist central planning economic policies. Everybody was just, kind of starving, hungry. You have one brand, everything. We run out of toilet papers, we run out of toothpaste, and the government, one brand of detergent can just take your beautiful colors of your brand new clothes after one wash. After one wash, it was terrible. And you have no choices of products. And I tell people, when I come to this country as new immigrant, the most impressive to me, the first thing, I would just get totally lost in your beautiful American grocery store, supermarket. I don't know what to buy. There's so many choices. I have 10 kinds of shampoo. Which kind should I buy? I have to learn to make those well-informed market decisions as consumer. I love it. It was bright, it was beautiful, it was clean, and you never saw that when I was in China, even in the 80s. So that I love a free market economy, free enterprise. You compare with people dying in China, even today in lots of other socialist countries, Venezuela, Cuba, they run out of cats. Like we did run out of rats in China to eat when you're starving. So I think the young people don't understand that how much freedom they have in this country.
Yeah, I'm living in Berlin, and Berlin also had East Berlin, which was under communist rule after when the wall went up. And without competition, things just fall apart because you just don't need to better anything. Like you said, the washing powder just starts to bleach your clothes. Doesn't matter. It's going to be on offer. And here in the East, they had one type of car, and it was the Trabant. And you had to register that car when you first had your child, because it took 16 years to make because it was so inefficient, but it didn't matter. You just register your car for your child when it was born.
Yeah.
Insane.
We had to register a bicycle. You have to have license to have a bike. And
Wow.
and I could not even afford bike anyway. I did not own anything. The only thing I could think of, what I owe the public is my school supplies. I used the Chinese New Year money from family relatives to save to buy some school supplies. I dreamed to have a little radio so I could listen to 1 minute classic music every day when they have the so-called revolutionary news break. And it was like a music, like a champagne, like the piano or symphony, violin was just so beautiful. Can you imagine we were even deprived of beautiful music to listen to? Lots of music were banned. We're saying red songs, 6:30 in the morning, like concentration camps in Nazi Germany. Music come on, everybody get up, everybody has to go to work and go to school. You cannot sleep in. Entire countries like that. I think it doesn't help. We live by the school, by my high school. So 6:30 in the morning, da 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 da. That's like, oh no, please let me sleep in. You have to get up. But then all our music were revolutionary songs. I always wanted to tell people there's a love song singer from Taiwan. Her sweet voice, romantic love songs will come through us by shortwave radio. When I was during the Cultural Revolution, you can get a caught by listening to her very sweet voice songs. It's called rotten music. They banned it. Okay, so we would all listen to it. And she had millions of the fans she never met. So when she died in Taiwan, I think in the probably 90s or something, millions, hundreds of millions of people mourn her death. Her name is Teresa Deng. And even my American husband loves her voice. Oh, it's so sweet that it's not political crap. It's a capitalist lifestyle. It needs to be banned. I was singing Peking opera, very sharp noise, Peking opera, red songs. You want to cover your ears up. It's like this. People have
actually my father gave me similar stories in the East because he grew up in the East and said that they would listen to rock and roll, like Western music was banned. And so they would listen to it very quietly under their pillow because through shortwave,
right.
and also, AM at that stage. And then the schools would ask you certain questions. So the schools would ask kids like, "Hey, when you watch television, is the logo down the bottom green or red?" You know, and the kids would say, "Oh, green," and that's how they would bust the parents watching Western television and run in there and arrest them. And you know, you hear these nightmare things, and you just think, "Oh my God, it's amazing." But my question actually is, how much was Hong Kong an inspiration for China to start loosening up and letting the market a little bit in at that stage?
You know, it's interesting that I lived in Hong Kong from 1996, 98 with my husband and the two little boys. My husband was an expat and for Hughes Aircraft. And we lived there. We loved Hong Kong. Everybody was self-employed, like an entrepreneur selling you something. You could walk down the street, no sales tax. And you got a Pakistani businessman to say, "Come on, Mr. Williams, we're going to make you measurement right now. We're going to make you brand new custom suit. Choose all your wool colors. $250, no sales tax." My husband got a 3 set of suits in Hong Kong. And you got the food, you got the bus lane, you got a flat income tax, 15%, postcard size, finding your taxes. Oh, just great. You don't have to hire CPA at all. And we loved Hong Kong. So when the Hong Kong took over by China, people had a hope. Maybe Hong Kong's free market economy, rule of law, democracy, maybe it will kind of inspire China to change for better. It was lots of people actually they dream to see China to become a more free democratic country. But that, you know, one country, two systems just died recently. They started to interfere with Hong Kong since 2013, and all under the new president, chairman Xi Jinping. And now you see, of course, they're all trying to flee now. And now the next threat probably is Taiwan. Taiwan is a live proof of Chinese are capable of democracy, freedom, and multi-party parliamentary system to vote and to choose their leaders and still have a prosperity for everybody who is involved. And so there's always a scary tactic by Chinese government. Oh, Chinese people are so backward. They're illiterate peasants. They cannot even understand democracy. I always say, look at Taiwan, the shining city on the hill. For 1.4 billion Chinese in mainland. And there's a video that the Chinese start to wave Taiwanese flag in some places. Of course, you get arrested. But they're saying, look, we want to be like Taiwan. Instead of under Mao, we were told Taiwanese people are starving to death. You should be grateful. You have CCP, Mao, to bring you food. Of course, it was all lies until we realized it's like actually Taiwan is way ahead of us. It's one of
way ahead
of 4 dragons, one of the 4 little dragons in Asia, right? So that of course people start to open up to say, you know what? But that's why Chinese government are afraid of their own people. They censor your internet. They use social credit system, a massive surveillance state to track you and to suppress you, to ban lots of sensitive words, to have firewall around your internet. You cannot access Facebook. You cannot access YouTube video. Lots of people don't understand that. And you get a social credit score if your groups are post something anti-government. They want you to continue to cheer for the party, one party rule, and you should be grateful. Oh, party gave you prosperity for the past 40 years. Party did? Oh, industrial Chinese people did. If government just left them alone, look how much wealth, how much job they can create. But China is going backwards today under this new dictatorship. And we people, you know what, I don't know, in my lifetime, if I would say, I would love to see the collapse of China's one-party dictatorship.
I think we'd all.
Can I ask, so, you know, in the US, we have a lot of NSA action. We have a lot of censorship going on with our tech stuff. But it's very hard for me to fathom the level of censorship in China. Does that mean that, you know, for example, I got to dinner with some friends and politics always comes up at some point, probably to, you know, my great dismay, because it's never very fun as a libertarian, but nonetheless, people talk. What is the level of self-censorship among polite society in China? And do people, are they even open in front of their family? Is it really like every single part of the country is, bugged? I mean, how serious is it to be able to speak out?
Under Mao, the families were no longer important. Mao got the people divided to 10 classes, 5 red, 5 black, and everybody is urged to spy on everybody, and include your own family members. We supposed to write diaries as students to say, "Dear Chairman Mao, I need to confess to you. I thought about something not correct. And my mom, my dad, or my neighbor, or somebody else say something not political correct." It was a sick society. I had a straight smart sense to say, "Oh, my diary is not private. Don't say anything stupid, getting your family into trouble." But now that has continued. You talk about tracking you, right? Like they have a household registration track where your family live, who is everybody, location, or who they are working for. Then you have a personnel file tracking you from birth to death. And so this massive censorship now is digitalized with big technology. And everybody has social credit score. Everybody has cell phone registered. And the face scan, they scan your face. They're getting like 200 or 300 million face recognition cameras in the public places everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. If you go to China today as a foreigner, you will be scanned also when you go enter China. And then, so it's easy to find you. So don't talk about politics when you go to China. And the self-censorship comes because it's still a society that the citizens, the families are not urged to trust each other. So Chinese traditional culture is very much about family and community and harmony. All that is destroyed. You can really, I grew up in China for 24 years until I come to this country. I learned my lesson. I could not trust anybody. I was alone. I was fighting alone. So at least now in the US, I'm a liberty activist. I feel actually I have a lot more people who are with me than when I was in China. I just sell my lips. I have to say, "Kumbaya, cheerful leader, support government policy." Otherwise, you can't get into trouble. I can lose my faculty job in law school. I might not get permission to apply passport to leave China. I had to get permission to leave. People probably never thought about that. You don't belong to yourself at all.
So,
it's funny with COVID right now, Australia is passing similar things. You're not allowed to leave Australia if I go back from Germany, I have to apply for an application to even leave. So this is a very interesting conversation right now that I think everybody needs to talk about, because these concepts of mass control are starting to be used under the guise of protecting your health. And I think this is also a very, very interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's amazing. I feel so, that's why I'm doing interview every week now. I feel so concerned that the America I came here for gave me liberty or gave me death. I see now most of Americans I see when I go outside, even in state of New Hampshire called the live free or die state, you see there's so much fear. And you say the governor has so much emergency power, just can shut down the economy and make your unemployment go up. I mean, it's like so many businesses are hurting. They have to close their shops forever after they run family business for 30 years. And if a government can force you by using law to make you wear a mask, or later make you to inject a medicine to take a vaccine, what else do you think they cannot do to you? So I come here, I thought, hey, U.S. Declaration of Independence, Constitution is going to be there forever to protect my individual rights, which I make my light bulbs come on and choose to come to America instead of go to Europe, because we have constitutional rights guaranteed by the founding document. But it's no longer the case. And so I feel like I have a duty now to tell people like you, to tell other American people what truly happened to us. They always use wonderful words, okay? Public security, national security, public goods, to make you to confirm. it's a tribalistic, and it's a very conforming society. If you are dissident, look at the cancel culture going on now. If you are dissident, they're going to crush you. Thank God I don't work for a salary. They're going to make you lose a job if you disagree with the main narrative. On my Facebook page, Lily for Liberty, I got flagged all the time, and I have a Chinese paid 50-cent army trolls to threaten me. I had to cancel my trip to go home to visit family friends 2019 because, I just have no guarantee for my safety because of all those brainwashed people in China today. They can report on you. She says this or that. And it's just sad. When you have no free speech, free press, you really have no idea about the truth. Everybody just trusts the God, so-called government, bureaucrats, politicians. It's like, I trust Mao. Mao was my God. After Mao, I can swear to you, after 20 years of searching the souls, I become an independent thinker. I would say like 2008. I will never worship any authorities after that. I always question it. But it's not the American way now. And it's very sad for me to see that we're divided because some people so trust authority. Public health bureaucrats, that become our new God. And the people are so fearful. So I really think, I hope that the people will start to revolt. The silent majority people have to question it and to say, you know what, I'm capable to make my own judgment, to make my own decisions, to search for truth. Instead of now, they censor everything. They take down doctors' videos and all that. I'm so worried about America. That's why I'm doing interview with everybody right now.
Well,
There's
so
nothing
there's
one
something in
democracy-
America that's actually on my mind. So what do you think of Trump's treatment of China? Some people have said that he's kind of being maybe xenophobic, that his trade policy wasn't great. Knowing the brutality of the Chinese government and knowing that there are apparently some security issues in terms of spyware and then this whole entire internet side war, what do you think of his policy? I mean, what do you think of Trump in comparison to China? Do you think that you need somebody to be kind of a bully?
Well, Trump, I can tell you, is the only president who really stand up firm against the CCP. He was, of course, starting with the trade negotiations because they did receive tons of complaints for the Chinese government and companies joined together and steal intellectual properties. And like I said, lots of people want to still enter Chinese market, make money. They're kind of desperate, and they will make a compromise by this. But still, you get stolen your intellectual properties and force you out, which is not right. And they joined WTO, but they never really follow WTO requirements. They equally apply to all WTO countries. They have infiltrated our American, very tolerant, open society in media, in movie theaters, in schools. And
what do you mean in media and movie theaters? I mean, I don't think of Chinese people influencing the media. I mean, Hollywood just makes it. Are you saying in terms of how they accommodate the Chinese people when they send the movies over there and they kind of do something that's in alignment with what the government wants?
They censor our movies. Hollywood movies go to China. They have to kowtow to their culture to say, oh, this character, it's not so politically correct. Let's change that character. And, so they modify their movies to fit the Chinese government censorship in order for Chinese customers to see their movies. They also let the Chinese to pay money to show their propaganda movies. Have you seen this China Dream documentary in all AMC movie theaters in this country? When China was like last year, 70th anniversary of PRC funding. Have you heard about Confucius Institute? In the name of teaching our youth about Chinese culture language, they are teaching you Chinese government propaganda. Basically to say, hey, university, we're going to give you money. We're going to send you Chinese teachers come to your school to teach. But you got to sign the agreement. You got to comply with our laws, our requirement. That's why people at the beginning, they did not know they did not know it was actually Chinese state government, the national government funded organization in the name of cultural language teaching. But it's not true. It was funded by Chinese government under Department of like the Chinese language. It's called Hanban. And I know I have Chinese friend who used to work for them. So I know she was even whispered to me, you know. And so I read Chinese. I watch Chinese movies. I'm a free trader, okay? I love free trade. My business is free trade. I import from China, sell stuff here, work with my partners. But I support President Trump and Pompeo's very firm stance against CCP. If CCP can have huge human rights abuses in Xinjiang, which is 1 million Muslims in China got locked up in concentration camps. If they can make a Buddhist in Tibet, all got locked up, and some of them have to protest burning themselves because Buddhists cannot kill. They cannot use violence, so they use violence. They kill themselves by peacefully protesting it. So all the human rights abuses that the lefty media do not talk about that. And corporation Americans don't talk about that. NBA don't talk about that. They want to make money. They will kowtow to China and to sell stuff, right? I understand. I'm not demonizing profit. But at the same time, you got to think about long-term consequence of that. If everybody is kowtow to one-party dictatorship and to CCP's massive expansion in the world by using one Belt, one Road initiative to buying up foreign government, and some are very corrupt officials. Then they take over. When you cannot pay the loan back to Chinese government, they take over your airport, your port, and your base. There's a Djibouti Chinese military base now, very close to American one, because Djibouti fall into that long help trap that cannot pay. So they took over. So if we kowtow to Chinese ambitious plan of take over the world economy and the world government, what kind of world do you want to live in? We're not even talking about America or China difference. We'll talk about the whole world will be very dark place. So we need to make choices between our freedom, rights, and prosperity and American founding principles and the money. Do you have balanced approach? Or you're gonna just choose money blindly? And that's very dangerous to me.
You know, one of the crazy things is that Top Gun, for instance, is a movie, and a lot of the funding and cooperation comes from the U.S. military, because the U.S. military allow them to film on their aircraft carriers and all the rest. The original Top Gun had a Taiwan flag on the main character's uniform, and the new one, the Chinese government went, no Taiwan flag. And of course, it's not there in the new one. So this is the sort of thing. It's like subtle manipulation. But sorry, I just thought of that.
It's not even subtle. It's not even subtle. Last year, they want all international airlines to go to China to delist Taiwan as a country. Or let's say your destination is Taipei, Taiwan, right? No, you cannot say Taipei, Taiwan anymore. So some smart ones will say zip code, so you know where you're flying to. You don't want to, because they're very sensitive about one China policy. If you dare to challenge that, they're not going to let you to fly to China, so you suffer losses. And that's why when NBA, one owner, manager come out to say support Hong Kong, censor, okay, apologize, so they can continue to have NBA games inside of China. There's a lot of very big, aggressive, bully behaviors by Chinese government. They use second largest economy, money, as a means to control people, like universities too. If you take my money, Harvard, I'm going to send my scientists. Some of them work for Chinese army to go to your lab. Hey, maybe they can get something useful out of your lab. All that infiltration, lots of people don't aware. For example, why Chinese companies come to our stock market exchanges and list them without going through same auditing and scrutiny that our American companies have to go through. Under rug of index fund, there are lots of Chinese companies, American consumers, investors like me, if we know we are funding a Chinese Liberation Army company to produce weapons for them, maybe I don't want to buy that company stock, but you do not know. It's all under the rug. So there are lots of infiltration. I think actually you have to give Trump administration credit. I mean, after Tiananmen Square massacre, Bush quickly go back to negotiation with the regime. But Trump, this time, after COVID cover-up, cost us so many lives and so much economy, after all the other things they're doing in China, to Hong Kong, to Taiwan, they're taking probably most harshest stand against communist Chinese government right now.
What's the point of all this technology without a little love in our lives? Our hosts, Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz, have come together to bring you Proof of Love.
Wow. Yeah, I have this instinct, even though Trump isn't my favorite, that with that situation, you kind of have to be a bully. I think a lot of Americans like that about him because, you know, they want somebody that's tyrannical, but it's very strange because normally I wouldn't want such a firm hand, but these are very unusual times. In Hong Kong, there were obviously protests, which we touched on. From what I understand, there were a lot of students that ended up mysteriously dead during these protests. And that almost led up to the whole Wuhan virus issue. So do you think that there was a point where China was feeling like they were going to crumble? Because it was posited to me that the idea that Hong Kong had to be crushed, because if Hong Kong went, then all the other places would fall in line and then the whole entire organization would have to, you know, fold. And that's obviously not acceptable, and they're willing to be brutal. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, it's one of the conspiracy theories by some Chinese, even human rights active people. They say the only way to crush down Hong Kong protesters is actually through some crisis, pandemic like this. And basically they did it. I don't have evidence to show that. I don't know. Maybe the virus, come out from Wuhan. But once they realize the virus is here, they did not tell the world. They did not shut down international travel. They let people, even when Wuhan was shut down, guess what? All the international travels were open to Chinese to go all over the world. And guess where they are affected the most? At the beginning, Spain and Italy, they are one belt, one road partners. They take Chinese government money, and all the Chinese businessmen and bureaucrats, go there to do the one road, project, and they got hit so bad. And other countries still have not joined the Western countries come out to condemn what they're doing in Hong Kong. So that tell you something. So that lots of people, I think they just are not aware what Chinese government is doing. They still had the old kind of idealistic view, or maybe China will come around. I can tell you, as long as they have a one-party dictatorship, no democratic elections, it's all appointed officials. You will have a continued cover-up of whatever bad news, pandemic come out of China, and they will continue to wake the Western democracy countries' economies and infiltrate into your educations, and by using money to even lure to governors to continue to do trade, to do project with them. And so we have to be very careful to say what is really our priority as a free society. I mean, that's debatable, really.
I think that's a really important question, because no democracy has lasted ever. It's always crumbled in the end because it's always gone towards dictatorship. Free people tend to become more and more relaxed, and power hungry people tend to want more and more and more power. But what do you think the end game is for the Chinese Communist Party? Are they so power hungry, especially when you see something like Taiwan? They're just so power hungry that they want even that place. What is their end game? Do they want to take over the world? Do they want to start to control people through finances? Or do you think they're happy with, okay, we've got Chinese people? And the second part of that is there a racist culture of Chinese elitism within the CCP do you think?
Well, they're extremely elitist racist. So they think all the regular Chinese people are not worth much at all. And of course, Chinese culture, you saw when COVID happened, how they treated the Black people who were working inside of China.
Yeah.
They can put a big sign in front of the McDonald's or something to say, hey, don't come here eat. Then they evicted some Black people living in China working there, includes the one, I said, one diplomat. He said, hey, I'm diplomat working in this country. It doesn't matter. Evict out of our community. We don't want you to hear. It's extremely racist country. But then they start to, attack America as racist country. That's just totally opposite. They have no credibility. And the thing is, their China Dream, which is a new initiative started by the regime, China Dream. It's not individual Chinese dream. It's a Chinese Communist Party dream. They want to be the number one economy. They want to be the world leader to replace America. And they want their currency to be dominant currency and all made in China. So that which is only 1949, like 2049, 100 years of China's founding anniversary, 100 years. They want to be the number one. So you got to have a balance here. You got to find out how strategically America is still the shining city on the hill. I don't care how many Americans bash their own country. I can tell you, this is a country I'm going to stay here and fight. I have no place to go. And I'm staying in New Hampshire. It's the best state to stay in to fight. Because where do I go? I have traveled the world. I went to Europe. I went to Australia, New Zealand. I went to lots of countries. This is still relatively the best country because we do have the founding document and we have separation of powers to protect us. And we have a Second Amendment. Let me any country to allow you to have Second Amendment. And this is on paper right now. I know some states are going crazy, taking your guns away, banning my AR-15. But hey, at least we have that. And we have each other as Americans. You're talking about 300, 400 million guns in the private hands of American citizens. Here's our hope. Chinese people, if you hold a toy gun to do something in the public, you get arrested. Oh, that's a big threat. That's so scary. So only government soldiers can have guns. So that's my intake about America. It's like, you know what? No matter how tough things get, we're not alone. We need to have each other. We need to be united through talks like this. I love American people. Okay, they're not racist people. They're giving, welcoming, charitable, and the freedom lovers. Sometimes they just forgot to appreciate the rights and freedom they have until something terrible happened. Then they wish they had listened to me. So I'm trying to say, let's get united. Let's not demonize each other. Doesn't matter you support this president or not. But we all love this country. You all are entitled to your own opinions. And don't suppress other ones who have different opinions. That would be death of a free society when you just suppress people who disagree with you.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack. This is a great interview. Thank you so much again, Lily, for joining us. I want to ask you a little bit about so I've been reading up a little bit about just cultural Marxism, the way that they brought a lot of scientists in the United States in order to implement, essentially propaganda. They took over educational institutions. They took over Hollywood. How deep does that relationship between the Democratic Party and China run? Because now it seems like there's a lot of people on the left that somehow have some kind of deals going on with China. What do you think of that? Is the Democratic Party a partner of the CCP in some way? What would you say about that? Because, are all communist places just, giving each other like, yeah, man, I'm here for you because we both like oppression. How does that work?
Well, I can tell you from all the Chinese WeChat and videos, articles I read, they don't want Trump to get elected. And we got to separate Democratic radical party leadership, radical leftists from the regular moderate Democrats people. We have to treat them separately. I'm speaking to moderate Democrat people, and lots of them do not like socialism and communism, and they just want to, have a different agenda, different maybe priorities on their policies, who to help. And then you have radical left, AOC people, okay? They are the so-called democratic socialists. As I said, doesn't matter. Socialism is socialism. Leads you to slavery, leads you to slaughterhouse, doesn't matter. But the people young people who don't really understand what socialism is about, what a democrat socialism is about, and they say just sounds wonderful to have free stuff. Okay, that's how you get the socialism. You feed people free stuff, free this, free that, write up your student loans, and we'll give you free stimulus package, continue this or that. I mean, all the social welfare programs they're promoting, I can tell you, socialism that connect with some radical left, it's very dangerous to our country. And lots of Democrats, they do not support that. But how do we speak to those Democrats who don't support that? We have to educate them to say it's very dangerous, okay? We have our civil institutions. We have our constitutional rights. And we can talk about different debates about how to solve our problems that we're facing. Say, if people get rid of partisan politics, there's so much brain power out there, so many brilliant people in this country, can put a solution together. But when you play politics, it's a hate. That's what the cultural Marxists do. Like when I grew up in China, it's all about hate your fellow citizens. Yeah. Hate another group of people, black class, red class, peasants against the, landowners. They want you to be jealous and they want you to come out to belong to them, publicly shame them, even, basically torture them to death. It's very dangerous. Okay?
Do you think that has a long-term moral effect on people?
Of course. The moral.
That's very bad.
I know, because it would destroy the total foundation of this civil society. See, Chinese, before 1949, communists took over. They had a civil society. They had a trade, commerce, private properties, dancing parties. They also had a traditional Chinese culture like art, and they promote harmony, family values, and the order of society. All got destroyed by communism. And the people, how many people even die or just commit suicide during the Mao's, like 20 million people. They intellectuals, property owners, I have a friend I know who live in Hawaii today. She lost 3 aunts to jump into rivers, okay, killing themselves because they were 1% of, wealthy families in Shanghai. They just could not understand what happened. All of a sudden, they lost everything. They got evicted from their own properties in Shanghai homes. A whole family share one pant to go out with. That kind of hatred put into your brain, it's sick of. It's only Mao, somebody like that, power-hungry sociopath can do that, does not care about human life. When you look at the Antifa, all the violence that start to happen in this country, do they really care about black people, inner city black people? I don't think no, because the black people are getting killed from the violence. And the little community shops are getting looted and burned down. You make it even less convenient now for the black people to travel, to go to places, to continue their living. They don't like it. And you talk about defund police, and we can talk about police reform, but those people, they have no protection now. Unless you have, like those criminals, you have your guns, you have illegal guns. I don't know where they got them, right? Democrats don't talk about that.
Well, they're illegal. I don't understand. How could they ever possibly have guns if they're illegal? Oh, you mean only the criminals have the guns?
Right. So gun controls only apply to people who are law-abiding citizens. It does not apply to criminals. So now they have a gun. You see how many people got killed in Sunday riots and on the weekend in Chicago, Atlanta. How many even black people suffered from this? I feel their pain. Their kids got killed. They no longer feel safe to live in their communities. I support peaceful protests and peaceful discussions of how we reform everything, including police reform. But this kind of toppling down statues, cancel culture, cancel everybody, including Trader Joe's. I just came out and had a post a few days ago. My brother, first name is Ming. Trader Ming means aging food package you can buy. We don't feel offended at all. We think that's wonderful. We can go there and find, if we go to Trader Joe's, that's Asian food, that's convenience. Why are you so offended for us? We heard the Chinese man for white left called the Bai Zhuo. We call them a Bai Zhuo, white left. Why are you so offended? Stop speaking for ourselves. Just leave us alone, okay? If you just stop looting our shops, burning down our shops, support our communities, that'd be helpful, okay? But don't treat us as children.
Right. Well,
yeah, I've said it. Someone said, I hope this doesn't offend you a couple of days ago. And I said, look, I love being offended because it means I'm living in a free country. As soon as you're never offended anymore, something's wrong. So it's important.
I know, they think they're speaking for me, right? Because I'm Chinese. If they make a Chinese joke, it's like I'm offended. No, I laugh at the joke too. I like those jokes. So I even didn't think about it. People got to be, very tolerant because precisely free speech is about people post something you really hate, you don't like. You offend people. Otherwise, if everybody say kumbaya to each other, you lose 2 million of free speech. It's protected. It doesn't matter what you say. And then pretty soon they're gonna like Mao come off your brain to say incorrect thought. What are your thought crime? Think of what kind of tyranny we'll be living in if that happens.
Well, we're certainly already seeing that. You mentioned a little bit about the statues being torn down. I don't support every statue that's out there, but to me, as a person that came from Poland, I was always warned, communist country, that a part of that whole agenda is to tear down old historical monuments. And I don't think that the people who are tearing them down here are even aware of the history to begin with. What was your experience in terms of destroying monuments and history, and what was the significance of that?
Well, I don't know if you heard, under Mao, he started getting rid of 4 old ideas, old culture, old habits, and old customs. So under his getting rid of 4 old red guards would go out, destroy statues, burn them, and cultural relics, and even beautiful Chinese women's dresses made from silk. That's just too sexy. That's too old. That's from Qing Dynasty, and it's burning. So people have to burn their old clothes, and they have to hide them like old family traditional furniture. Hide them. All red guards is coming, take them. Hey, they take them. Who knows? Maybe they give to super, like officials to use in their offices, or who knows. But my grandma even had to hide, give away. Actually, she couldn't hide. She only got a 1-room apartment. She had to give away her sewing machine. The sewing machine she used, honestly, you can sew clothes for your grandchildren, your children, but because it's made from iron, okay, red guard say, well, why are you keeping all sewing machine? You need to contribute this to our great steel production campaign. Took it. In the 50s, that time, and people want to steal so bad. So getting rid of 4 old means burning down statues, get rid of temples, destroy all the religions. You're only allowed to be loyal to communism and Mao, and violence also. If you are the professor who are still talk about old Confucianism and stuff like that, you are dissident. You are not in line with parties. How many people who are intellectuals just because they have a little bit different opinions and they were sent to concentration camps? And the young people got to be aware, once Mao finished using them up like a red guard, and they become violent because schools were shutting down. Remember, schools were shutting down during Mao's Cultural Revolution. So young people were all had available full time to do political struggle campaigns and get rid of their political enemies. Then Mao sent them to countryside, down to the country campaign. My 3 uncles went to Chinese rural China for 10 years. Manual hard labor. When they come back, finally, no diploma, low wife, no job skills, and no education. Very sad generation. They're all in their 60s and 70s today. And guess what? They were used. That's why when I go to talk to young people, just remember, be independent thinkers, okay? always challenge the authorities, search truth on your own. Because you could be like my uncles, red guard, be used. And something horrible is going to happen to you later in your life. And because you were so idealistic, and then that'll be too late. By the time you lose all your freedoms, too late.
I think that that's such an important point, is to always challenge your ingrained beliefs. Whatever you believe, you should challenge yourself. And it's very, very hard for a lot of people because they might believe something very, very strongly and never challenge it. It's one of the things I like about certain Buddhist philosophies, where they'd sit and they'd challenge they challenge the Buddha. And why did he think this? And why? No, and then they'd reverse it, try to always challenge it. And I thought that was a really important point, is to challenge that. And I don't think enough people do. I think they especially young students, they sort of believe these things and they wear their socialist propaganda right on their shirt, and they never stop to actually question, is this the right thing? It's usually when they become entrepreneurs and have to pay massive taxes when they start to go, oh.
I know. Well, it's interesting you mentioned about Buddhism. I was raised as Buddhist, but in order to join Maoist organization like a Young Pioneer and the Red Guards, I could not belong to any temples. Our temples were shut down, burned down, and barred anyway. You could not go to say, Buddha bless me. Then Buddha make you think, rationally, and they always ask you to respect history, culture, harmony, nature. And, look at all the pollution going on in China. I don't think they respect nature at all. Mao's slogan, Mao wants to play God. We're going to fight with nature. Let's get the whole mountain flat out and, to get the steel out of them or something. So that I was told, if I claim myself to be Buddhist, okay, I cannot be politically correct. I will never wear a red scarf. I love to conform when I was little because I'm ambitious. I want to be the best student. I was so brainwashed. Mao was like a god. Can you imagine? Mao would talk to me from sky to say, hi, how are you today? And I would just smile. When I used to be happy, smile, people were criticizing me. Why are you happy? So later I figured out straight, smart answer. Oh, because I'm talking to my mom. I'm happy. I'm proud. I'm going to serve him, protect him. Oh, good child. Everything the political side. You cannot say, I want to go exercise because I want to look sexy. Wrong answer. You go exercise because you want to be Mao's best regard, to protect your country, to serve your country. It's sick. When you look at
it's sick, isn't it? It's so demented. I can't even begin to think how demented for someone to actually want to be that powerful, to say every time someone thinks of a god, I want them to think of me. What's wrong with these people? Yeah. And what's wrong with the mass sort of brainwashing that can happen, that people can't snap out of it? I just can't believe it. But I see it starting to happen in the West, and that's why I just applaud you for your great work.
But now you understand why I'm so critical today. I'm always cool, no matter what rally there is, I'm always cool to be an observer, because once I went through Mao, I was badly damaged the soul or lost the soul. I will never go through another feeling like that for anybody. Any human is no God. So that's what I would say. People say, are you still Buddhist? I say, I am, but I do challenge my Buddha. I don't agree with my Buddha all the time. Of course, I don't agree with our politician who's supposed to be people's servants all the time. So you just become objective. If my public servant do something right, represent my values, I support them. If they do something wrong, I oppose them. It's no worship and no extremely partisan politics. And as Americans, we should be like that because we should concern for our children's future. What kind of country we want to live in? I like to say Americans, okay, 99% of them can be united because we are not each other's enemies. Our enemies are the people who hide behind the screens and the jerk, they chains our necks. You don't know who they are even, okay? So I want to tell people, treat your fellow citizens with kindness, with tolerance, with respect. You don't have to agree with me, but at least we can be in peace, disagree respectfully. I don't like this, constantly fighting, attacking. It doesn't help. No. We are going to lose our country, go down this path. We'll be all enslaved, just like in Chinese people are, equally slaves, equally poor. Then what do you do then? Maybe too late by then.
I think that there's a lot of warnings to be taken from this. I have a different well, I have two other questions. I know we're it's going a little long, but there's so much to talk about. You seem like a very proud American citizen that you moved here. I have some friends that came from, for example, Canada, where they have socialism light, and they come here with a bit of a disagreement with what the Constitution says. And my mom, she came here from Poland, and I think that she respects the values of this country. Do you think that that is a prerequisite for joining a country as special as America, that you have to agree to those values? And where is the place for debate? Because I worry that if somebody comes here from another country that likes socialism, they're going to try and bring that here. And if they like it so much, they can stay in the place where they have that. Then you have other people that come from, for example, Cuba or Venezuela, that are super into capitalism because they've experienced it in such a scary way. But am I only looking at this because I see freedom as paramount? Do you think that that's an important component that you need to bring in as an immigrant to this country?
Well, I think that the people who are from totalitarian regimes like me, Cuba, for socialist countries, we all appreciate freedom so much. And we appreciate the market economy so much because that's the only way we got to prosper in this country. Look, when I come to this country, I borrowed $100. I could not speak English. I owe my professor debt, $1,200. That was negative beginnings. I was about 24 years old. Look, I'm today. You look at my house here, and we are self-employed business people. I work from home. I have 3 businesses. And so I appreciate all the opportunities I have, but that personal responsibility to become more wealthy, more comfortable, more prosperous on me. I don't say, hey, who can help me? I constantly think about what a new business I can start, okay? What kind of things I can do. I put that on me because if just government leave me alone and keep taxes low, I think we can have very, very prosperous country, even more so than now, even towards poor people who can start their business too. The problem I see when people come here from more socialist countries, but the social welfare countries like Canada, Europe, or Western Europe, they might think the United States, did not do things right here. I'm not saying the United States is right in every policy they have. The corporatism is bad. Very big, powerful government control economy is bad. I don't like that. But I think we should have a debate to say, what are you doing in your country? Maybe we can talk about it. Maybe learn from their approach. So I'm all about problem solving. If we can learn from different people, different countries, maybe we can make America better. I'm not saying America is perfect, but I just don't want American so-called going down to path of socialism. You think we're going to get better? Like, no, we only will get worse. That utopia will never come, no matter how much you dream about it, how much lies you take from another side. Oh, we're going to give you this, that. By then, everybody is equally poor. You have no rights for even to share. You have a little bit rights from that one ball. Equally poverty. That's what I went through. And I don't want that at all.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
What do you think of TikTok? Trump is going to ban it, I guess. Do you think that that's the appropriate move? And even more broadly, other kinds of social media platforms, do you think that that's the place of government when the social media platforms, for example, in Trump's case, the social media platforms are really manipulating things to only present one perspective. So maybe there's something to be said for having them be more equal. And then you've got with something with TikTok where it could just be full on spyware. Whereas one could say, hey, Facebook's like spying on you all the time anyway. So what's the big deal?
Well, let's say if you add all the social media companies together, then you compare with the TikTok, okay, the censorship and losing privacy just times 100%. Okay, people don't understand in China because under one party ruling, fascist economy, I would say mixed economy, but they have fascist government now, not so much communist. What do? If you have private company in China, you still have to allow you open the door for me to send the Communist Party committee in your private company, even your foreign company, joint venture company, because we want to make sure you are politically correct. And you have to give away all the data they demand. Think about all the young people today going to TikTok and have fun, laugh about it. It's so entertaining. I understand that. But do you understand where that data will go and how long that data will be there in the hands of the potential Chinese government? Forever. Forever. Let's say many years later, if you are saying you want to be a psychologist, but when you were young, stupid in high school, in college, you post something that's really bad, it's there forever. They can come to attack you to say, you know what, here's what you did 40 years ago. I will not trust TikTok because whenever you have a Chinese company based in China, you are subject to their laws and you're subject to their demand to give away every data they want. You have a zero privacy protection. But if it's an American company, at least we have some, balances and check and balances, and people can protest, blockade, you can go sue them. Hopefully, no special protection for big tech who can sue them. And if they violate the free speech and stuff like that, I don't know. It's all debatable. But I think banning TikTok like India has banned about 50 Chinese apps, including WeChat. I don't talk about WeChat, which is a Chinese Facebook and messenger system. I only talk to my family friends about non-political stuff because I can't get into trouble. If I say my friends post political stuff, next minute I go there, look at it, I get a blank to say this is not appropriate, it's deleted. There's like my favorite article talk about in the 80s Chinese cultural renaissance. All my favorite songs were there and talk about, you can talk about political stuff and gone. It's like within 24 hours. I'm glad I read it. I enjoyed everything in it. Then gone next day. Even my former law school professor, party secretary, he posts something, gone. So it's not safe at all. So people might not understand how bad things are in China. You have zero protection of private data. And that's why we got to be very careful about, how every kid here has this on their app. They're also tracking your other apps, not just TikTok. TikTok will track the apps on your phone when you use other apps, what you say, what you post, what you do. Very dangerous. I think maybe it's the right thing to think about.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a very, very strange thing because we're trying to live in reality and you have to mitigate, you have your ultimate liberty beliefs and then you have what's really attainable right now. I'm glad that you're up in New Hampshire with a good crew. I think, Josh, you had another question?
Yeah, it's a bit of a sort of a statement and a question, but a lot of people say, in capitalism, if you had pure capitalism and you had a minimal state, then how would the poor people, what about people that all of a sudden, lost their wife and just couldn't, went mentally ill and then couldn't work and couldn't survive? And you have these outliners that the mega market economy crushes. But I have to say that every single person I know that's living in a free society has given to charity once at least once, and many, many times, most of the time. What is the charity under massive communist reign? Are there private charities? Are there people giving to poor, or is it more dog eat dog in an extreme communist?
That's an excellent question. There's no charity, okay? And the charity fund, people do give sometimes, like Sichuan had a very bad earthquake in 2000 something, and lots of people donated, including overseas money. It was abused. It went to the places not supposed to go. And my friend, professor in CUNY University in New York City, wrote an article report about it. And he got a call from a National Security Bureau people to say, take the article down. He said, why should I? I'm telling the truth. I did an investigative report. Those funds were misused from charity. And I said, well, take that down. We don't like it. You expose the arguments bad things to the world. And he never took it down. Guess what? He's on blacklist. He can never go back to China. They will not allow him to go there speak. The civil organizations in China, NGOs, nonprofits, were severely damaged, marginalized. And another way for my Democrat friends, unions are not allowed, because unions, how dare you organize yourself to represent your workers? They're all supposed to listen to the party, and controlled by the party. No unions. Think about workers' rule, does not exist. So lots of rich people, they were, still talk about giving money to different causes, including like South Africa. I saw lots of people donate to rhinos and stuff. But think about the Chinese people inside China. Children don't have a school. The rural China, the school buildings are collapsing, and winters have no windows, extremely cold. When I went to school in China, every 20 minutes in the winter, we get up. We run like on the same spot, like do some physical, cold, get yourself warm and sit down, take another lecture. Because that's the primitive condition of our schools. They call them mandatory government schools, but then they have no school bus, and they have no decent school buildings in the poor areas. How come our charity money don't allow go there? Because they want you the money to go where they want you to go. And they do encourage charity recently about donating to COVID, victims, and help each other out. But I just don't know what is the trust level of Chinese people, where my money really to go where it's supposed to go. So it's questionable. There's a very little room for the civil organizations, NGOs, nonprofits to exist.
Okay, so we're coming up on the hour, but I can't stop asking questions. I think this is going to be the last one. But what about cryptocurrency in China? How are you feeling about Bitcoin going to China, about the Chinese currency? Do you think that this is something that people will be alarmed by? Do you have an opinion on that? Because, crypto can be used for both good and evil, depending on who's making the money.
Well, I can tell you, lots of rich Chinese probably would love crypto if they had a way to do it. And it's banned. It's banned by Chinese government. After they ban, and they're talking about maybe Chinese CCP will have their own crypto. Who will trust that, right? There's no privacy protection. So there's lots of rich people in China. They want to transfer their wealth out of China because it's not safe. You are billionaire, multi-millionaire, but you can lose all one night just because of political reasons, okay? So they want to transfer. But how do they transfer? They normally go through Hong Kong, or they go through underground black market channels. You can still, whenever they can, they will still buy crypto. They can still transfer their wealth, maybe even through their children. Why they send their children all come to the United States to study? Then you can buy them a housing, you can, buy all kinds of stuff for them, and, use a bank account transfer and transfer the wealth. But it's all being cracked down now. I think it's not so easy anymore for the rich Chinese to transfer their wealth out of country to prepare for their escape. Recently, there's a new development, not just a public passport. The Chinese have two passports. One passport is officials. That belongs to your boss. You don't get to keep it. But recently, you have to turn over, register your private passport now, just in case you also escape out of China. Then we don't know. You're just gone. So even teachers, their passports are held by their top management. So so as a private citizen in China, it's really difficult now to go travel, go somewhere, because your passport is not really belong to yourself. So I think that I support crypto because I'm hoping that will really, provide the privacy protections. With all the printing money, Fed keep printing, people keep spending. I'm hoping, that will become more popular and go up. So, but right now, Chinese people, they just have to figure out the way because it's illegal right now.
Well, they're very clever and ingenious people. So I don't doubt the the strength of the actual Chinese people at all, they'll I think we'll see freedom. And freedom will eventually bubble up.
I don't know, guys. I hope so, but I don't think that we should be so cautious, because the more that I look at the way that people have been mentally enslaved in the United States, basically begging for their enslavement, if you have mass brainwashing, it's hard to win the brain back, but hopefully we will. Lily, before we let you go, I know that you're available to speak all around the country, so people can certainly reach out to you. Can you give us a quick pitch for where people can link up with you? And of course, we're going to have some links at the end.
Yeah, I have a Facebook page called Lily for Liberty, LILY 4 Liberty. I have over 18,000 followers now. I like to grow that. You can write me and give me a message there. My personal Facebook is already maximum at 5,000, so it's hard to take new friends. I have Twitter and Twitter handle Lily for Liberty, and Instagram Lily Tang Williams. And I do travel around the country to get my message out, especially to educate the young people who are not really taught what happened in real history. And I want to help teachers as eyewitness of communism, Maoist, the Cultural Revolution, to talk about what happened to us, just personal stories, not partisan stuff, and with old picture to show. So if you have 100 students for your college, universities, and schools, and even nonprofit organization, if you want somebody like me to talk about communism, I can go there at a low cost to you. And thanks to my sponsor who, VOC, Victim of Communism Memorial Foundation, and they will help me to go to your group. So I would appreciate that if you can message me and then we can talk.
Thank you so much,
Nice.
Lily. This was a great story. Josh, you have anything to say before we go?
Look, first of all, thank you so much, Lily. It's just an extraordinary work that you're doing, and thank you very much for being on the show. I just want to say to all our users, we have just launched negative trading fees for Bitcoin and gold and Dash. So this is very exciting, as well as a great affiliate program. So make sure you check out Voltoro, and I'll be sure to follow Lily on Twitter. My Twitter handle is jshigala or @Voltoro. And again, keep up the fantastic work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Awesome. Hey guys, Queen Tatiana on Twitter. Find me online, TatianaRose.com. Got some new music coming out. Check out our show, Proof of Lovecast, and check out this show and other Tatiana shows at thetatianashow.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.
The Tatiana Show has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. We gotta think and reflect and use lots of intellect with our hearts when we work together. I know that it can be so hard out there, looking all around and saying that life ain't fair. So that is why we will fight and stay up late at night, listening to the Tatiana Show. Thank you for listening to the Tatiana Show. Please follow us on Twitter at Queen Tatiana or on Facebook and Instagram at Tatiana Moroz Music. More episodes can be found at thetatianashow.com, and make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. You are listening to the Tatiana Show. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on The Tatiana Show is intended as financial advice, legal advice, or really anything other than entertainment. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're listening to us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on or of any sponsors or any affiliate products you may hear about on this show.